Welcome into Believe in Kentucky. Vinny Hardy alongside Aaron Gershon. We'll get all his wonderful work at the Cat's Paws. Aaron will put a bow on hoops and March Madness and all that
Yep.
towards the end of this show. But we got football, we got spring practice, we got Coach Jay Boulware, Kentucky's running backs coach and special teams coordinator backstage. So we're gonna bring him on right now to talk a little football, man. So, Coach, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Good. How y'all doing?
Doing well.
Can't
Yes,
complain. Can't complain. Saw you mic'd up the other day at practice, man. How's everything going so far?
everything's going really well. Really pleased with the guys and how they're going about their work each and every day, and we're just working to just get a little bit better each and every day. So I'm really pleased with us as a team. Obviously I'm dealing with special teams and running backs, and I see the same culture in both of those rooms.
And
Yeah,
Aaron, jump in, man. Anytime. Don't let me just.
yeah, no, coach. I want to start right with the running backs because obviously the media was allowed to, in at practice today, and I got to watch the whole thing. And I came away, and one of the guys I was probably most impressed with was Jason Patterson, who obviously was on a little bit of a roll last year before he got hurt. But what have you seen from his growth? And it seemed like, especially as a pass catcher, he's really improved over the offseason here.
Yeah, Jason's a year older now. You know what I mean? When
Mm-hmm.
when BBN saw him last year, he was a true freshman. He was the youngest back in that played for us, and it's just there's so much growth when those guys come in midseason like he did in the spring of last year, and now he's got a full calendar year underneath his belt. And let me just tell you what, just like what we saw last year, we saw the flashes. He's coming into his own. He's learning how to lead. He's been leading our room from the very start. He's still got some growth that he needs and whatnot, but man, he's making big play after big play for us out there. He's been probably our most explosive back, which says a lot because we got
Mm-hmm.
some guys. We got Mara in the room, we got Dante. Those three guys are doing the most right now, and JP has been leading the pack. So been really pleased with him.
You mentioned that you handle running backs and special teams, the same culture. My thing, how do you balance both as far as attention to detail to both and handle both as a coach? How do you approach making sure you handling your business at both duties?
Right. I've been doing this for a while. I've been a special teams coordinator and a position coach for a long time. It's probably since 2002. You know what I mean? So that's 20 plus years of doing both. Um, now that I'm older, I obviously, have gotten to the position where I'm at much better schools where I'm allowed to have some help. So I do have a QC that's just strictly, for whatever I need. Although he does have some defensive responsibilities or whatnot. But I got a QC in Michael Prefer, who, he's got it's the best way to say it. He's a third generation NFL special teams coordinator kid. You know what I mean? So his granddad was an NFL special teams coordinator. His dad was an NFL special teams coordinator who's now at North Carolina. And then I got him. I've been knowing him since he was a little kid. My first full-time job, he was a little kid at Northern Illinois, and I was working with his dad. And I was the young coach on the staff. And so it just warms my heart. All these years later, I'm able to hire one of those little snotty nosed kids as my assistant. Man, he's done a phenomenal job.
I
No,
was
absolutely. Go ahead, buddy.
I was thinking if I read right, the first time you became a special teams coach was that at Arizona? Was that
Yes.
okay? So how did that go? And did they just say, "Hey, Bo, where you got special teams?" And how did you like? Yo, I never coached this before. What was that like
Right.
as a young coach back then?
Man, I don't run away from problems. I run to them. And when the head coach at the time, happens to be the head coach that I played for at the University of Texas, when the special teams coordinator was no longer there, um, I grappled with it for about an hour or two, man, is just saying I want to go in there and ask him, hey, I want this job. Not ask him, tell him that I wanted this job. I wanted that responsibility on my plate. I've been an O-line coach already. When I came there as the tight end guy, and then I got moved to running backs. I wanted more responsibility. I wanted to be in front of the guys, helping with the culture of the team and all that, and just growing. And so I went in there and I asked him straight out. I was like, Coach, who are you thinking about being the special teams coordinator? And he looked at me and he said, I'm looking at him.
Oh, wow.
I was thinking, oh, okay, here we go. So I dove into it then. I got most of my stuff from an former NFL special teams coordinator, and I just started grinding, man, at that time. And I'd never coached it before. I'd been on, staffs where I had responsibilities, not necessarily in charge of anything, but I coached a position. And so I was looking forward to it, man. I just, like I said, I jumped in full board and just started grinding and growing.
Yeah, you guys in your first 2 years here, obviously, I haven't been around covering this program, have improved exponentially on special teams the last couple of years. What do you think was kind of the biggest key to kind of turning things around from when you first came in? And, going into this year, obviously there's going to be some personnel change with Alex, who was phenomenal for you guys. Rayner, not here anymore. Barryon Brown, obviously not here anymore. How do you guys kind of just keep that thing rolling on that side? Because in all honesty, when special teams is going well, it doesn't get talked about enough.
That's exactly right.
Just with how valuable it is, but that's kind of how you want it at the same time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I don't want my boss talking to me.
Right.
If my boss is talking to me, we're in trouble. One of the things that I think that we've done under my system through the years is, and I'm not necessarily patting myself on the back, but I am, is recruit.
Yeah.
Recruit. You know what I mean? You have to recruit great specialists. It's no different than any other position. When I got here, man, we had a number of guys on scholarship, but we needed to change the personnel.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just the last guy in here didn't know what he was doing or whatever. It wasn't anything like that. You have to recruit at that position and develop at that position, just like every other position on the team. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't really understand or know much about kicking and punting, so they don't know what greatness looks like. Mm-hmm. We are well informed of what greatness looks like in our special teams room. I told guys here when I got here, in my first interview for BBN, I remember standing at that podium and telling them, I said, hey, man, I've recruited, a guy by the name of Daniel Carlson, mm-hmm. who's still in the NFL, right? That was my last recruit to Auburn. Man, they lived that thing for 5 years. I left them a guy named Cody Parkey, who was a all-pro as a rookie, right? And then I had a pretty good punter that didn't make it in the league. I had a long snapper that when I got there, he was a walk-on. They had another guy on scholarship. Well, the walk-on started for me. Well, that same kid is still snapping in the NFL, right? So it's about recruiting those positions just like everything else. They make you a better coach. I remember everybody talking about, oh, well, why won't he do Australian style punting with our Australian? Well, just because a kid's Australian doesn't mean he can rugby punt, at an elite level.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I was trying to say. I'm like, it doesn't matter whether he's an Australian or an American. It's just, to be an elite punter, you have to be able to, have the leg, hang time, and distance, all right, to allow your coverage to get underneath it. So we needed to change personnel. And when I got here, we didn't have any scholarships. Rayner wasn't on scholarship. Man, we just kept trying to talk to him because he was a guy we identified. And then we brought Rayner in, after every other scholarship was taken up. We were about to start the season. We had a couple extra scholarships left over. And I told Coach, give them to me. I'll use them. Right. Mm-hmm. And we brought in Rayner, which I think was a good get. Again, recruiting. You know what I mean? And then we brought in a long snapper who I thought we needed one. We actually brought in one, and then Coach had recruited one. So we had a couple guys at that position. So the only position that we hadn't recruited in my first year was punter.
Sure.
Right. And then so we went the first year with those guys, and Rayner had a phenomenal year. What did he miss? One the first year, one the second year. He just hit more in the second year. So, he didn't miss. We got the operation and everything down field goal wise where that thing was smooth. Wilson Berry did a phenomenal job of filling in until we recruited a punter with a live leg.
Oh, yeah.
And he also did a good job holding for Alex, which cannot go unnoticed. He did a phenomenal job. So that's another position, man. A lot of guys that are missing field goals and whatnot, they're missing field goals because they don't know how to coach holders. One of the teams we played, I won't say any names, but we called them out. Used to try to cheat and put a piece of tape down, with their holder so their kicker knows where to go.
Wow.
Yeah. And we saw it on film and we immediately alerted those guys to it.
Oh, wow.
And then they missed the field goal in the game. You know what I mean? They missed it. Yeah, they couldn't hit field goals, right? Because they weren't good enough at training that position. And
How
so
about that?
yeah, a lot of those are things that guys that don't know that they don't know that they don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And make a long story short, we do a good job of that in all areas of our special teams. We coach every single area. We coach long snappers, short snappers, holders, kickers, punters, and then the other 10 or 9 guys, depending on what unit we have out there. So we're coaching them all.
I'm gonna flip it to you for just a second because you already mentioned that you went to Texas. You played offensive tackle for the Longhorns.
Yes.
So, who was your comp if you would have a comp as an offensive tackle? And a little scouting report on Jay Boulware as an old lineman.
All right. So my first year, right? Everybody in my class got redshirted. Like we went to Texas, the guys in my class, and you guys are too young to remember this, but we went to Texas after Texas had a phenomenal year and then went to the Cotton Bowl and got boat raced by Miami, Michael Irvin, that whole crew of Miami Hurricanes, man. I mean, they got boat raced. I mean, it was Russell Maryland. I mean, it was player after player after player. And we came in that next year. And anyway, so we had a pretty young group of offensive linemen. We called us a class of beef. That's what we were. We had about 12 offensive and defensive linemen in that class. Well, the guy that probably gave me the most competition was a guy by the name of Blake Brockermeyer, who played in the NFL for I don't know how long, but he played for a long time. Had a couple kids that are still playing at this point right now. But he was my classmate. He went on to the NFL, and I started coaching after I had an arrhythmia after my 3rd year in school. So I was unable to finish my career, and God opened up another door immediately for me that I had no idea that I'd be doing the rest of my life. But that is definitely my calling. I am here because of him, and I know for a fact that I'm doing his work. I'm doing what he has called me to do, which is influence these young men, be a positive influence on them day in and day out, help them achieve goals. Because he's blessed me with so many things in my life, man, and I'm so very grateful for it. I'm grateful for this opportunity that I have here with Coach Stoops and at Kentucky. I absolutely love it here. It's a great place, man. I love the city. I love the town. I love the people. And it's just, again, another blessing, a huge blessing in my life.
Absolutely. Now being born in Irving, are you a Cowboys fan? Did you grow up a Cowboys?
Well, I did grow up a Cowboys fan. I grew up in Irving, but I was not born in Irving. Okay. All right. So here's the funny thing, right? I was born in Oklahoma City. And all of my relatives are Sooners. Every last one of them.
Okay, yes, there you go.
Every last one of them. So when I went there, and it's not like, I ever had like, oh, I want to go to Oklahoma or this, that, and the other, because I was a Sooner fan for most of my life up until the time I started getting recruited. When I got recruited, Texas came to the forefront, right? So I was born in Oklahoma City. My grandmother was still there, 91 years old when I took that job. Now, mind you, now I've been a football coach. I've been all over the country, right? All these years. And you talk about a blessing, man. I was there for 7 years as Bob Stoops' offensive coordinator, as Bob Stoops' special teams coordinator and tight end and running back coach, right? And then I became Lincoln Riley's running back coach and special teams coordinator. So, to be there in that environment, right? Be around my grandmother, who at the time was 91. She passed away 3 years later after that while I was still there. man, I look at that as a huge, huge blessing again. Then that's how I know that my steps are ordered. He put me in a position to be somewhere in this profession, and not only in this profession, but at a top-notch place in this profession. And so I can spend time with my family. I had all my family on my mom's side there, some in my dad's side in a different city called Muskogee, Oklahoma, man. And it was such a blessing for 7 years, man. I had big barbecues. I can get down on the grill, just so you guys know. Yes, I'm gonna talk that noise, Texas brisket. You guys know what I'm talking about. Pork butts, beer can chicken, all that stuff, man. I'm big in smoky meat and getting after it like that. But I used to have a party every Memorial Day weekend, which
Yes.
happens to be my daughter's birthday. And I had all those family members coming up from everywhere, from both Texas and Oklahoma.
That's
And it
awesome.
was a phenomenal event, man. So that's a little bit about me. Not born in Oklahoma, not born in Texas, born in Oklahoma, crossed that Red River to go to high school and junior high and elementary school and whatnot. And I turned into a Longhorn, man.
So, man, you've been on both sides of this Red River rivalry, man. So,
Yes.
as a player,
Yes.
coming back to play the Sooners and all your family, what was that like? And then on staff at Oklahoma, going back to play the alma mater, what was that like, man?
Well, okay. All right. So it was hard, not from a standpoint of, man, I don't want to play these guys. I didn't want to lose to them when I was at Oklahoma,
That's right.
ever, right? Because you lose to them, everybody was my friend, right? All of those guys that are on the other side of the river were friends and teammates and whatnot. So, they never really wore me out about it, right? But they used to piss me off when they're happy, right? You know what I mean? So I hated that. I hated that more than anything. So much so that we lost my first year, right? That I was at Oklahoma. And then the very next year, right? That happened to be Mac Brown's last season, right? He actually won that Red River Rivalry. That was his last season in Texas. And then that very next year, Coach Stoops, Bob Stoops, used to always pick a coach for each game to give the talk to the team to set the tone for the week. He knew right away I was pissed off about that loss, man. He can see the passion and whatever. So I gave the talk the next year. We beat them the next year. So I gave the talk the next 3 or 4 years, and we won every year, right? We won every year, and until I think it kind of fizzled out after year 5 or 6 or whatever, and they finally got us again. But that's not what I wanted to do. I did not want to lose that game. It was actually harder to go coach at Texas after being in Oklahoma all that time, because I had so many of those kids that I was close to. So many of them took to Twitter after they beat us. They beat us on it's kind of crazy, because this is the reason why I didn't come here right after Texas is, I took that job as a special team coordinator, and it was either be the running back coach or the tight end, but they just paid me a bag of money, right? Had to take it. Well, the players that I knew, right, including an NFL player, used to always troll Texas no matter what, right?
I think I know
So
what you're talking
after
about.
we
Yep.
lost that game, man, I'm just telling you, man, those guys were on my behind at Oklahoma. I mean, it was like, yeah, Coach Boulware, how about you leaving? Why you leave? I mean, they were on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, every social media platform giving me the business. I enjoyed it, right? But I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was harder. It was harder to leave Oklahoma and be at Texas, because I knew so many of those guys, current players, that, really kind of, it meant something to them each and every year to beat, not only to beat their rival, but hey, here's my former coach. Let me let me get on get on his butt a little bit. You know what I mean? So I was a little bit harder than the other way around. But every time I'm on, it doesn't matter where I'm coaching. Obviously, you guys know, man, I want to win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm up for that challenge, and I'm ready for it at all times. So that's what we're about.
Let me ask this too. As a fan of a football team that doesn't really have neutral site games like that, I've talked to Florida fans, Georgia fans. They playing in Jacksonville every year. You all playing in Dallas every year. Does part of y'all ever want, you know, OU to come to Austin and Texas to come to Norman, or is it right just the way it is at Dallas?
Man,
Like,
if you've ever been, there's rivalry games all across the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some are looked at or viewed as some of the tops in the country. Like I've been a part of an Iron Bowl, right? Same type of deal, but different, right? I've been a part of Stanford Cal. I've been a part of Arizona State. Well, this venue is different. It's historic. It's on the state fairgrounds in the state of Texas, right? These state fairgrounds, right? It's a huge stadium in the middle. Man, there is nothing like pulling into that stadium on an October weekend and smelling that fair food, and you got people, in orange, you got people in crimson. Half of them are flipping you off, and the other half are cheering you on. I mean, it's just it's one of the premier games in college football, year in and year out. It's important, man, and it's nothing like it in that venue. So no, the people that are part of it, they don't ever want to switch that game to anywhere but Dallas. Because those two teams meet right in the middle.
That's
They're
right.
both about 3 hours away from that location. And so the fans have equal opportunity from either place to get there. And really the whole state of Texas kind of takes on, they get behind Texas and in the state of Oklahoma, as well as some people in the state of Texas, because there's a lot of OU fans in Texas as well, too, with it being so close. I mean, it's vicious.
Yeah.
It's vicious. I'm just telling you. But it's a great atmosphere, man. It's nothing like it. Split right down the middle, half red, half orange, man.
Yeah.
And it's going down the same tunnel, where there's plenty of noise, talking and chirping and this, that, and the other. There is nothing like it, man. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. Feels like those games also always go down to the wire, regardless of what type of year they're having,
Yes.
perspectively.
Yes. It's a rivalry game to its core, and that's what happens in rivalry games, man. You can't ever assume that, just because this team has this record, they're not going to be good enough to beat us. That is not the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're coaching running backs, do you, like your coaching style, the way you coach, do you ever have to change it or adjust it? Like if a different coordinator or different offensive scheme, do you have to change the way you coach the backs, or you keep it the same?
Well, for me, that's a great question, right? It really is. For me, my whole coaching style since my stint in the NFL has taken a different turn from this standpoint. You know, being an O lineman, a former O lineman, you know, I was big on being coached anyway. It doesn't matter. You can cuss me out, get on me, grind me, whatever, it didn't matter to me as a former O lineman. I was used to that, right? But as a coach, obviously every player is different, right? And so everybody needs to be coached differently. Well, I agree with that, but I also there are also some disagreements with how I coach now. How I coach now, man, I'm just trying to give life to these kids in everything that they're doing. I want to pick them up. I want them to believe in themselves, man. I want them to know that they can get it done no matter what. You guys have no idea, and it's kind of funny. The guys tell me this now, but you know, I told them before we went out against Louisville 2 years ago. We're coming out at halftime. I'm like, this is the one. We're going to take this one to the house. I'm telling them this stuff
Call the shot.
beforehand, and I'm like, Coach, you called it. You called it. And then Demi comes up to me, but Coach, you really always say that. You really you always tell us that, hey, we can do it here. But you know what? That's a testament to the positivity that I'm trying to instill in you. I'm having them try to believe in themselves. And I found that I get more out of my players, right? Because next to the head coach, there's nobody that talks to the team as much as I do, right? I found I get more from more people by speaking positive things into them, by picking them up, be encouraging. And so I got that from Tony Dungy, who passed it off to Mike T and so forth and so on. And so that's how I kind of picked that up. What can I do each and every day? And I really don't care where it is. I mean, it could just be in this building. How can I pick up the lady that cleans the building? How can I encourage her? How can I pick up, my coworkers if they're a little down? How can I pick up a kid if he's going through something outside of football? I'm always here for those kids. And that's what I believe my calling is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the point about coaching the whole team. Like, people don't understand that about special teams coordinators, that besides the head coach, that you're the
Yeah,
guy that
yeah,
speaks for the whole team. I think,
that's right.
given your background, having coached pretty much every offense position, one, how much does that help you? And two, I want to bring up a specific player because I think as a former tight ends coach and as a, special
Mm,
teams coordinator, it's a guy you probably really appreciate it in Willie Rodriguez. I wanted to
mm.
ask about him because I remember I thought, obviously there were some ups and downs last year, but one of the biggest plays of the year that no one ever talks about was that first play against
Yes,
Ole Miss, the hit he
yes.
made.
The people,
So
the people that know. Go ahead.
yes, but kind of just bringing that all back together, like the fact that you're coaching the whole team, give or take almost the whole team, and there's a guy like that, a tight end, who comes up and makes a huge special teams play to bring that out of them. Just can you talk about just your role, kind of taking a little bit of everyone, and then Willie, like when guys who are we talk about him as a tight end, we don't really talk about him as a special teamer, goes and
Right.
makes that type of play, what that does for guys who are kind of looking for roles as well.
Well, here's the thing, right? Man, there's a tremendous freshman class that came in here last year, right?
No
And
question.
DBN needs to understand that, man. Those
I
freshmen
agree.
were really, really good, right? And guys were looking at me kind of crazy in the staff room when I'm like, I want to play like 6 or 7 of them, start them, And Coach Stoops was like, and I'm thankful for him for trusting me with this because they'd never done that here, right?
Right.
They've never played that many guys. They're used to redshirting them and trying to have them down the road and this, that, and the other. Well, you guys know as well as I do, times have changed,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
The guys are different now, man. They want to play and they want to play now. So we had about, I'd say somewhere from 6 to 8. And there were some that I used for 4 games and didn't use them again,
Right.
right? So they were able to still keep their red shirt. Well, Willie was not one of those guys. Willie was a full-time guy the whole
Yeah.
time. And there was a number of those guys that played for us full-time the entire time. And like I said, guys were kind of looking at me crazy. Man, you're going to play with all those freshmen? I'm used to playing with veterans. Man, they kicked butt.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
They
thought so
kicked
too.
butt,
Absolutely.
man. They did, man. We were, quietly, like we're not, super splashy. We're not going after blocks every single time. And that's not what my head coach wants to do. He's a
Sure.
defensive coach and he wants the ball back in the offense's hand. He wants
Yeah.
the defense off the field so they can rest.
Yeah.
So, when we get to punt return, sometimes we're not as aggressive as some of the other guys. So people don't notice that, that part of our game as much. But man, those guys played lights out, man.
Mm-hmm.
And Willie was one of them, man. He made a phenomenal hit in that
Oh,
game, and he set the tone for that game.
absolutely.
You ask anybody on this football team, he fired us up. And it's our mantra, right? It is our mantra on special teams to talk about E4. E4 is what we live by on teams. We want to create energy for this football team. We want to play with an edge. We want to execute, right? And we want to energize this football team. So it's energy, energize, play with an edge, and execute. And all the guys on the team know that. You know what I mean? They play on special teams. They know what that means. And so when we have opportunities to energize this football team, we're trying to do it. Whether it's a big hit on kickoff, whether it's Alex Rayner hitting all of his field goals
Yeah.
against Georgia, whether it's Barryon Brown taking a kick return to the house against Louisville, and then did it again the next week against Clemson. It's a shame we didn't win that game, right? You guys get what I'm putting down? We're trying to
Absolutely.
create those energy plays, right, that can help push this team over the top, and on the flip side of that, we're trying to eliminate, the opposing team's big plays. Do you know we were one of 2 teams in the country that did not give up a big return last year?
Yeah, I think I
2.
saw that. I did think that somewhere. I think I
Yes,
saw that somewhere. Yep.
2 in the whole country,
Pretty good.
right? The other one is, I'm not going to speak on anybody else, but Kentucky's one of them.
Yep.
Hey, that's good company. You you go to baseball where you got a guy that's in the bullpen. They try to stretch him out to become a starter. Try to give him more innings and things like that. Demi was quote unquote a third down back, and then you kind of had to stretch him out into being a starter, a full time back, workhorse. How do you kind of get a guy ready for that workload when he's more so quote unquote specialty back is what he's known for. How did you kind of stretch Demi out and get him ready for the grind?
I don't put limitations on guys at all. You know what I mean? Subscribe to this is what this guy, this is what that guy is. You could be whatever you want to be. Again, there's that encouraging thing, right? Demi wanted to be a starter. He wasn't even sure he wanted to be the feature back. You know, he had been a quote unquote running back receiver for a long time, his entire career. Well, you know, once he saw an opening, man, he took it upon himself to be the same guy. You know, Ray showed him how to do it. You know what I mean? Ray had laid the groundwork when I got in here on how I want guys to conduct themselves, how you need to be if you're going to be the starting back. You need to be accountable. You need to do all the things right. Da 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 da. And that's what Demi did. That's why Demi was in that position. He was in that position because he did everything right. It does us no good, you know. And I know fans, you know, hey, we want to see this guy. You may think that this is that, you know. It does us no good to go out there and do one play well and then do four plays bad because we're making mistakes. You can't play and you can't win with that type of inconsistency. You have to have somebody out there that's going to do it right and then do it right every time. You know what I mean? Because you know his play affects the O-line's play. Mm-hmm. If a running back's running the wrong way, he gets tackled. Maybe y'all don't recognize it, but the O-line knows it. You know what I mean? And the quarterback knows it. You know what I mean? If you're taking the wrong steps in footwork, you know, the average person may not know it, but everybody else does. And so you look at it like, man, the line didn't block worth a darn. Well, maybe that was a running back.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know what I mean? So that's what we're looking for. You got to be able to step out there and do a great job and do it consistently. And that's what these guys right now in spring ball are trying to do. They know that that's how we coach.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Coach, got one more for you and let you go.
Okay.
Just coaching a scat back and a power back. Do you have to approach that differently? You know, a quick guy or Earl Campbell type, do you have to coach them differently?
Have you guys ever seen the movie Happy Feet?
It's been a minute, but yes.
It's been a minute, right?
Yeah.
So, those penguins had to find their song, right?
Yeah.
You guys remember that? It's no different than runners, right? Runners have to know what their ability level is and do it repeatedly over and over again. You can't be a big back and try to play like a little back. You can't be a little back and play like a big back, right? You know, those guys all have a certain skill set that they need to unleash on the opposing defense. And so for me as the coach, I'm just trying to help them find their song. I just want them to be, you know, productive, whatever that is, right? And I'm not trying to pigeonhole them or put them in hey, you're just this or you're just that, because a big back may make somebody miss because he's pounding them. And now all of a sudden that guy's got his head down and the big back steps to the side and keeps it going. So you have to just coach the guys up on the techniques and fundamentals. And then God has blessed them with the ability to do what they do. You know, I tell my backs all the time and they know it. They'll tell you, my job is to get you to the point of attack. Once you do after that, man, that's what makes the money for you. You know, that's what gets this guy paid and this guy not paid. You know what I mean? So that's my job. I want to get them to the point of attack and get them there consistently.
Hey, good stuff, man. Coach, we appreciate your insight.
Very much appreciate it.
You know,
yes. You guys, thank you for your time. I wish you the best, man, and go BBN, right?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. We'll see you soon.
I appreciate you too. You like the tweet of mine. This is, I'm back when the end of last year in basketball, Cal and Reed Shepherd and Dillingham, they went to Knoxville. They beat Tennessee. It was Tennessee's senior day.
Yes.
I put out a tweet basically that's saying that it was Kentucky was, you know, Dave Chappelle doing the Rick James on Eddie Murphy's couch. And you like that tweet. I was like,
yes, I love that. I love that scene. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's good.
Forget your couch.
Yeah. Exactly. So I appreciate taking time to like, you know, my little old tweet, Coach. So I thought that was cool, man.
No doubt, bro. Hey, God bless you guys, man. Y'all take care.
Appreciate you.
All the best this season, man. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Thanks, Cammy.
Thank you so much, Cammy.
I just hit you with that follow, Vinny, on the women's basketball account.
There you go.
So much. And I appreciate, you know, the interaction, like having some players on and some.
For sure. I'm gonna we're a little less busy now. So if you want Tiani or Deja, one of those two, I think you'd mention, I'll hit you up and we'll get that done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Appreciate you.
Coach Jay Boulware, SID Cammy Moore. So appreciate them. Good stuff from Coach, man.
Absolutely, yeah. And it was good to be out there at practice today. I know the excitement is what it is right now with football, given what happened last year, but did see some encouraging things out there on the field. Obviously, far from a finished product, but there did seem to be a better attitude, a better spirit, better energy, and some better performance in certain areas, specifically offensive line wise, and coach's running back room. I thought Jason Patterson was terrific today. So, we'll get, hopefully generate some more excitement as we get into the summer and then into the spring, and everyone's into the fall, and everyone's looking forward to it. But, I do think, am I going out and predicting this epic turnaround where they win 10 games? No, but I do think there's some at least reasons for some sort of hope and optimism. This thing could be at least better than the last couple of years for sure.
Yeah. And, we know they're hungry to improve. We all know last season didn't go how they wanted. Neither one of us even asked them because they already know.
They know.
You saw him mic'd up, get better every day. He said the same thing to us. And, your coach Stoops, because we got to play better, got to coach better. They all know that. They've all addressed it and broken it all down. And, we're all going to wait and see. And they're all going to try their best to put the pieces in place to improve. So,
no doubt.
We'll see what happens, man. Sure will. You
No
were
doubt.
fresh from Indy. No, well, are you covering baseball? As of, if not, there's no games in your future right now. Right?
Not as of now. We are, baseball. We'll see what happens this weekend. The weather looks horrendous in Lexington, so maybe we'll get to one this weekend. But at some point, I'll get over there. But right now it's finishing up spring football, which is crazily enough going to be over next weekend. And then a lot of basketball transfer portal, as you can imagine. We'll get into that a little bit before we hang up on here. But those are kind of the main things going right now.
So the season ended. Kentucky falls short to Tennessee. I did an episode after the game. I gave Tennessee credit. They hard to beat a team 3 times. They proved true. The defensive glass was Kentucky's.
That was the killer. Yep. So, yeah. The defensive glass, that was the biggest thing in the game. I actually thought, like, on the first possession Kentucky defensively held up pretty well, and Tennessee missed some shots early in the game, but they just kept cleaning up their misses and making things happen off those. And, then in the second half, when Kentucky offensively finally started getting a semblance of a rhythm, obviously Tennessee did a great job running Kentucky off the 3-point line, which was not the case in the first 2 games this season. But Kentucky in the second half specifically was really able to get in the paint. I thought Amari Williams gave them a lot offensively. I also think that was part of Tennessee's game plan to kind of let Amari do his thing rather than let Kobe light him up from 3, or Ansley or any of the Carr or any of their 3-point shooters get going. But regardless, they were able to get in some sort of rhythm on the offensive end. But then Tennessee just started hitting dagger 3s and long 2s, and you just got to tip your cap, man. I mean, Look, I know how you specifically feel about the men in orange down there, but they were a veteran. Obviously, they lost to Houston in a very similar game 2 days later, but very veteran group. Been there, done that. Several players back from their Elite 8 team last year, specifically with the 2 guards and Meshack and Ziegler, who were terrific college players, and Kentucky just got beat. And I think. Honestly, the fan base has gotten over it really quick because there's an appreciation for the fact that this team that was put together in a month's time lacked, seriously, like, they had talent. I don't think it's fair to say they were not talented, like some people are pointing out. And people are like, oh, it's going to be the least talented teams Pope's had. Talent's not the word I'd use. I'd say they lack some, is what kind of caught up to them on the glass, caught up to them in games like Clemson and games like Georgia. The 2 against Alabama, or the 3 against Alabama, where they just got pushed around and out physicaled. And it caught up to them against Tennessee as well in this last one. So There's obviously that's going to be a big focus in the transfer portal this offseason is to get more athletic. I think they've already kind of started that with Cam Williams. He fits exactly, a 6'8" tweener that can really light it up from three, can get in the paint and score, and can go and block shots on the defensive end and grab rebounds at a high level. Like those are the type of guys they're going to be looking for in this portal class. And I think he's a great fit. So I don't think a lack of talent is the word to use, but they definitely lack some athleticism with this year's group that I think will get better as we go on starting next season. But it was to get to the Sweet 16 with all the injuries, the timetable. I mean, not only was this team put together in a month, it got put together 3 weeks after the transfer portal had already been open. Yeah. So Mark Pope was working way from behind to get this roster done. And it's not like, some of these coaches, and good for them, that take over jobs, bring a good chunk of their rosters. Mark Pope had 0 guys from his roster until June 1st when Jackson Robinson pulled out of the draft and committed. So it's just so impressive what they were able to do. Obviously, the 8 top 15 wins, and 2 of the teams in the Final Four they beat this year. So, kudos to them on a great start. Obviously, the Sweet 16 shouldn't be your ceiling going forward, but in year one, with everything that I kind of just laid out, if you complain about it, I don't know what to tell you. Like college basketball is different now, man. Like I understand Duke's in the Final Four, but you're not seeing the Final Four every year. Is not Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, and UConn or Nova. Like it is. There's a lot of parity. A lot of different teams have money. There's great coaches. It's just a different ball game now. And I think Kentucky is on the right track. And we'll get into this portal stuff a little bit, but I think. I still think the future is bright. I am not at all discouraged by the Tennessee loss. I just think that the team kind of reached their ceiling.
Yeah, that's it. And tip your cap to them. And a lot of BBN will do it anyway. I have done it throughout the season. Go back and rewatch the Florida game. SEC play. Rewatch the Duke, Gonzaga, Louisville game. Both Tennessee regular season games.
Louisville ended up being, I know they went 1 and done in the tournament, but they ended up being pretty damn good. That ended up being a pretty good win.
Yeah, rewatch both of Always Oklahoma games. I mean,
Missouri. There's some good wins in there.
And this team beat Duke. To me, Duke made Alabama look like the ACC team that hadn't played anybody. And Duke was the team that played this tough schedule. I was really surprised to see them handle Alabama like that. I mean, I know
Duke has lost 2 basketball games, right, since Kentucky, or they only lost 1. They lost to Clemson on the road. Mm-hmm. Is that it? Did they even lose anything else? I think they had another early loss. They lost to Kansas, actually. They lost to Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse. That was the other one.
Yeah, because the fact that they did Alabama that way. And I know Alabama, like in baseball, save some of those threes for Duke. When your Yankees score 30 runs in the game, and you're like the next game they score 2 because save some of those hits for the next day. Yeah, they weren't able to carry over, the record-setting shooting night.
Against BYU.
And so you knew they wouldn't hit that many, but I still didn't think they would lose by 20 to Duke.
No, I didn't either.
So Kentucky beat that team that just smoked Alabama. So go back and rewatch all these wins. A lot of people do dive into the portal and keep up, and who we getting, this guy's in the portal. A lot of people will let consume their time with that. I'm more of I'll see who we get, and when it's done kind of guy. I mean, I know you guys have to track it all and provide all the data.
Oh, man. Yeah.
You and Jacob and all those guys have to, stay on top of it. I'm like, if we get the Big Blue Madness, they don't have a team, then I'll panic, but that's never going to be the case. So just reflect on all the positive vibes from this team. And
it was a great start, I think. Mark Pope was able to get the NCAA tournament monkey off his back. He went 0-2 and lost to 2-11 seeds when he was at BYU. He takes care of, honestly, they didn't play great against Troy, but they took care of business. And then Illinois, and I think we talked about it when I was up in Milwaukee, the episode we did before the start of the NCAA tournament. Like, Illinois on paper was not a good matchup for Kentucky at all. They had a lot of forwards who can shoot the three, as we saw with Big T, as Orlando Antigua calls him, Thomas Lavicevic. He had his way against Kentucky, but Kentucky played a great defensive game, and they were unconscious offensively in the second half, at least for the first 10 minutes of that half. And then they made some really big plays in the first half too, that created the separation. So, they played an outstanding game against a team that was the betting favorite going in, regardless of seed. And Illinois, it was a true home game for them, up in Milwaukee. So, I'd take those as wins. And now you got a chance. Obviously you're losing a lot from this team. You're losing, your starting point guard. You're losing your whole starting lineup from the start of the year, except we don't know exactly what Otega Owe is going to do yet. So there's a lot of pieces to pick up. You're also losing Almanor, who's a key role player. You got to, we'll see what the deal is with if they think Caden Lewis is going to be a point guard 2 next year, or a guy they kind of just want to bury on the depth chart for a year, if they're going to replace Kirk Carissa or not, with a transfer to be determined. But, we know they have to go out a starting point guard. We know they still have to go out another center. They kind of got that tweener piece that they wanted. So that's done. I think in total, counting Cam Williams, you're probably looking at 5 transfer portal additions, which would mean they have 4 more to go get at minimum. It could be more. Obviously, there's that legislation thing too that's coming up with how it may affect basketball scholarships and roster sizes. So there's a lot to be determined. There's a lot of work that Mark Pope and the staff has to get done, but they have a little bit more time to do it this time. There's a lot more options on the table. There are people freaking out already, and I tried to sum it up as best as I could last night on Twitter when Magoon Goff, the center from San Diego State, decided to stay at San Diego State, which honestly, if you're not a Kentucky fan, kind of respect it that he's going back there for less money and being loyal to his school. And it's still true right now as I'm looking, there's 16 teams in the SEC and only 7 have a transfer portal commit right now. And look, Texas A&M is going through a coaching search, and their top choice just turned them down in Chris Beard. If there's a possibility Chris Jans could be up at A&M, which would mean Mississippi State's got to start over. Florida and Auburn are still in the Final Four. They haven't done anything in the portal yet, and they're losing a ton from their roster right now. Kentucky is fine. And they already got their first piece. That's a guy who's ranked top 25 in this portal class that a lot of other schools would have signed up to get. So you just got to relax. The portal is so much different than high school recruiting. High school recruiting is a slow burn, build that relationship, mom and dad, all that good stuff. Some of this, not all of it, you have guys going on visits like Taylor Boulware, the forward from Florida State, was here yesterday. Mackenzie Magabo from Indiana is here right now. But a lot of these guys, it's kind of like, for NFL fans out there, it's kind of like that legal tampering period where basically everything's going through agents. Everything is going through, the kids and the coaches directly on Zoom, and they're handling the money, and they're coming up with a deal, and they're signing it without sight unseen. Brandon Garrison did that last year. He never visited Kentucky when he committed. So did Kirk Carissa. It's just the way of the game. So there could be a guy, I'm not saying this is happening, I'm just saying there could be a guy next Friday, we're sitting here, was not on any of our radars, and all of a sudden he's committed to Kentucky. And, there's guys right now that they're very heavy on that, for example, the kid from Robert Morris that, from what I understand, they're very high on and have a good shot, kind of the guy they're looking at to be their starting 4. I think the Magabo and Taylor Boulware situations are more of a backup 4 role, kind of like Ansley, but probably a little more extensive. He's in Spain right now. That's where he's from. He's visiting family. It's going to take a little bit. And so just relax. If on May 1st, they still have just 1 portal commit or only have 2, then we could talk and figure out what's going on. But the portal's still open for 3 more weeks. There's a ton of guys who haven't even entered yet. So there's going to be a second wave too once a bunch come off the board, and then like a guy's like, oh, well, they recruited over me, I'm out. So this is going to take some time. Relax, enjoy it. It's fun, honestly. Like free agency, I find, at least as a it's not as fun right now because I have to work a lot of it. But like as a pro sports fan, NFL, MLB, some of my favorite times of the year is kind of the free agency frenzy. So that's kind of what we're in right now, and it's going to be a little bit of a slow burn.
Yeah, I'm with you. Relax. You said wait till May 1st. I'm still look. If they don't have a team come Big Blue Madness, that's right. But we somebody put a meme or something out. We don't know what they're cooking. We don't know what they got going on. We don't know. And as much as everybody follows and tries to keep up, we just can't know exactly what all their intentions are. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Fun, and to do what he did last year with a month, now he's got a full off season and a full cycle and the whole thing. So it'll be fine.
It'll be fine. And hopefully we'll have a better idea of things next week. Like it's going to change. There's going to be something that's happens in the next 10 minutes. That's just how, not necessarily with Kentucky, just in general. Like this thing is just nonstop chaos, and you just got to roll with it, or else if you let every decision, every contact, everything just eat at you alive, like I trust me, that's not what's happening inside the offices over there on Lexington Avenue. They're fine, they're calm, everything's gonna be fine.
Cody Figure will be tweeting out boom soon enough. And
just relax.
Relax. Talk about Kentucky women's basketball, and we got a little cameo from Cammie, who's the SID for them, and they had a great season too. And
absolutely did.
Got to host 2 games. Won their first one. Got 2 1-point games. Eked one out on the wrong end against Kansas State. Great season from Brooks and Strack, and Georgia Amore is unbelievable.
Yep, all-time program great.
Do great in the WNBA. But I mean, you got Valerie Steele from way back in the day, who was the GOAT of Kentucky women's basketball, and now Georgia is definitely etched her name in one season. The big news, though, is what everything is going on with Cassidy Rowe, who we've had on here on this podcast many times, and the fact that she's not gonna be back on the team to finish her senior season, and it's just hate to see how that.
Yeah, look, I want to acknowledge, like, we don't have UK's side of the story yet, so I do want to throw that out there before I kind of give my opinion as of where things currently stand. Obviously, Lonnie Rowe, Cassidy's father, went on with my buddy Alan Cutler on that radio show, and interacted with a lot of us on social media who were pretty upset about it. But my big things are a couple things. One, and we just talked about it on the men's side, like we might have a big legislation change, which would give you 2 extra scholarships. So that's one reason this is a poor decision. 2, you're talking about a player that she doesn't play much and doesn't complain about it. She's recovered from 2 ACL tears. She's from, little old Bevergy, Kentucky, living out a dream and doing everything she can to help this team, even when she's not playing, and went through the coaching change. Coach Brooks brought her back. That would have been the time to do it. If you were going to cut her, that was the time to do it. But, this is a kid that just wanted to help out and, have her senior day next year and do what she can. And you know what? They have right now, even if the legislation doesn't take effect, they have 7 scholarships open. You're telling me that her spot is going to be the end all be all when Kenny Brooks is notorious for having short rotations anyway? Like, to me, that's just, and given her work ethic, I imagine she's a great practice player. She's really, I bet she's really good on scout team and things like that. So I think this decision was tone deaf. Obviously, there's also the part of it where she's going into physical therapy school, or I believe it's PT school. And she, the deadline to, I think, get accepted was last fall. So if she had wanted to transfer, she would have had to have done it, transferred last offseason and then got into PT school wherever she had landed this coming year. Just none of the time, the messaging that comes with it, the humility in it, to me, is where I take major issue and don't understand why. Again, it would be one thing if she wasn't going into PT school and was in a situation where a transfer would be really easy. It would be one thing if it was a situation where she was bad in the locker room. It would be a situation where if Kentucky had 3 spots available and really needed to go add another star in the portal, another, Strack or whatever. But none of those things apply here. So unless, we get a really good explanation from Kenny Brooks on this one, I'm going to disagree with him and say it's his first. I wouldn't say I don't think it's going to be a major mistake in terms of winning and losing, but I think from a PR perspective, a messaging to your fan perspective, especially those in Eastern Kentucky, I just think it's a huge unnecessary mistake on his part. And I feel bad for Cassidy. I wish her the best, and think it's just a ridiculous move again, unless we get something that comes out from Coach Brooks and makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like you said, the time to do it would have been when he first
Yes.
took the job and met with the players and is getting to know who's there and who he's.
Yep.
The returning players, you kind of decide if you're gonna, new coach coming in,
Yep.
keep him or
Yep.
not. Excuse me, and that happens everywhere. On the pro level, new coach, new owner, all that, and the changes made. Cal, when he first got here, replacing Gillespie, a lot of those guys, he's bringing in Cousins and Wall, and
Yeah.
everybody there in 09 wasn't there in 2010.
Right.
And this is not the first time that's happened. Nobody's saying that it is.
No, it happened. It happened on the men's side here last year.
Yeah. So nobody's saying that, and so from that standpoint, okay, this has happened before. But then when you add in all these other factors, gonna be the senior year.
Yes.
She every time she's out there, she's taking charges, and she's hustle, grit, bleeds blue.
Yep.
Like he said when he talked with her, I thought she would cry blue tears. I realized that I've got to keep her if like you so. And all she would want is to have a senior day for everybody to kind of, get her flowers and acknowledge her there. Last home game at Memorial Coliseum, that whole thing. So when it just skews it to where it is a bad look. Because I was going for, okay, I'm from East Kentucky. I'm from Kentucky. Let me try to be objective. I know Cassidy a little bit. Had her on all of my podcasts. Had her dad on my other podcast. So let me try to be objective. But then you keep hearing and now she's got to pay out of pocket for school. Oh, and all this.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Just can't. Yeah. So it's.
Again, and I hope that Kenny goes on radio somewhere, releases a statement, talks with the women's basketball beat writer for the Colonel or for the Herald Leader,
Carolyn Muskowskis or something.
Yeah. So I hope there's that. I hope there's some clarity because a lot of fans are ticked off, and you don't want to do that when there's such positive momentum for not only women's basketball as a whole, but just this program specifically. So, I hope for the best for all sides involved, but mostly right now for Cassidy's side.
Yeah, because we were feeling just as good about the women's team as the men's. They won
No question.
24, 25 games, and the past 2 years, I think they won 24 games combined. I think they won the previous 2 under Coach Elgin. I think they only won like 24 games.
Oh yeah, that's correct.
So feeling great about both. You hate they weren't able to get past the second round game, but again, the injuries they had, to get where they got, playing such a small rotation with two starters, really, that you didn't have all season.
Right.
Like, and so that standpoint, you feel good about them going forward, just like you do the men. So you hate to have this just hanging over everything right now.
Agreed.
I'm like you. Maybe he will go on radio or have a presser or something to like, since we haven't heard anything from him.
Yep. Yeah, we will. We'll see. But as things stand right now, it's not a popular decision and not a good one.
Yeah, you're right. And that's all you can say is basing it all from what we've seen play out. So,
Yep.
everybody's gonna form their opinions, and we'll see if they what they decide to do or say. So
Yeah.
Oh, so we'll be back with more, like you said, next week.
Yep.
Transfer portal, Final Four. I'm for the SEC. I kind of hope Florida wins. I don't know if Broom's gonna be healthy enough to.
Yeah, I think Florida's going to get by Auburn.
And
I had Florida in my original bracket, so I'll stick with Florida. But the way this tournament has gone, have a feeling it might be Duke. They just look pretty damn dominant. But I did pick Florida in my bracket. So, and I actually picked Houston to beat Duke in my bracket. So, but Duke has been really good.
Yeah. So we'll see. All four number one seeds, chalk, but that's okay.
Yeah, hopefully we get these. Hopefully, all I could ask for, because honestly, this tournament has lacked. The whole thing with no upsets, that doesn't bother me as much. I think you'll still see them. The biggest thing has been most of these games haven't really been competitive. Like they haven't really. There hasn't been many that have gone down to the wire. I mean, you had the Florida A&M or Florida Texas Tech game. You had the Texas Tech Arkansas game. You had a couple others here and there, Colorado State, Maryland, but like. Overall, man, they've just been beatdowns. So let's just I'm hoping for 2 nail biters. Great down in San Antonio this weekend.
Yeah, I'm with you. And for everybody that listens and watches, we definitely appreciate it. Didn't say it at the beginning, but definitely subscribe and like and follow and check us out on Twitter and X and the whole link tree where you can subscribe and like everything and tell your friends. We definitely appreciate it. Appreciate Coach Boulware for taking the time to hop on here, drop knowledge about the team and about himself as a player and the OU Texas rivalry, all that good stuff we talked about with him. And follow Aaron as always at thecatsballs.com, transfer portal, all the content, all the coverage from the games. Appreciate that. Always love the insights. And we'll be back next week. We did some live recaps. Appreciate you holding it down the other day. From Indy. Was that before the Troy game? When was that?
It was before the Tennessee game.
Yeah. After Illinois.
After Illinois. Yep.
So appreciate that. And appreciate y'all listening. Aaron and Coach Boulware, my name is Vinny Hardy. Been another episode of Believe in Kentucky. See y'all next week. Go Cats. Have a good evening, and we'll holler at y'all next time.